All right, welcome to the External Relations Committee meeting of Tuesday, April 24th. Would you all please rise and join me?
Oh,
in the
that's
pledge?
right.
Oh, here we go. I'm gonna turn around this way.
Yep.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I feel like everybody sees my backside now.
That's all they were looking at anyways.
Well, no, this way it was this, that way it was the front side.
Yeah, camera's over there. All right, would you please call the roll?
Director Cicada
Here.
and Director Thomas.
We are both here. Okay, we have, any public comment today? Anyone here or online? All right, let's
Yeah.
move on to item 3, approval of the minutes of the last meeting, March 26th.
I think they look fine, so I put approval.
Okay, that sounds like a motion to me. I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Are we supposed to do them that formal, even though there's only two of us?
Sure. That's what Robert said.
All right.
Okay. Moving on to item number 4, new business. We have an external affairs update with Kelly Gerkensmeyer.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I did try to get my report to go second because Michael's in a meeting that I was supposed to be in right now, a planning meeting. So my hope was to go to that meeting, let Kelly do her thing, and then I can burst in with,
Save the day?
no, just hot off the presses news, but he stole my thunder. So he's in that meeting right now. So once I told him my idea, he said, no, you need to go and report to the boards. So here I am.
So was that an appeal for us to wait or what?
No, we're gonna
Okay.
just keep
Let's hear
move
what
right
Kelly-
on through.
Okay.
I've lost my pen. And I had it.
I have a
the
pen.
time.
I
I'm
have a
sure
pen.
I dropped it
Wait a
somewhere.
minute. Here, try that.
Oh, we got one right here. Thanks, you guys. That's a blue Bic, one of my favorites, Fine Point, if anybody sees it.
Okay, good afternoon, Director Thomas, Director Cicada.
Hello.
Here we are, and I'm
Would you please make that President Thomas? So.
President Thomas.
Oh, okay.
I do apologize.
You did make it bigger. I like that.
Yes, my eyes are going as well, so I'm in denial, though. I don't ever want to put on my reading glasses. Even though I need to. All right, so I was gonna start off with, I reported on this last time, telling you guys that we're gonna be doing these events at the high schools.
I like that.
And we did 3 successful events. They were fantastic. The first one we did was on the right track at Bret Harte, and this is the one where the students, seniors, come to you with different scenarios, and it was an amazing event. I did that one with Tiffany, and we had a great time. Some of the scenarios were paying your water bill, setting up water service, looking for a job, different things like that. And as you can see in the top right, we work fast.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
brought a
I
lot of
wish I
stuff.
could work
We
like
wasted no time. We're trying to be efficient. And then the following week on the left, we did a career day that was more specific to just careers. And that one was by far my favorite. It was really fun. And that was all age groups. It was all freshmen through seniors. And so it was fantastic. We had a really good group there too. Joe Darby from the field came. We had Tiffany again and Zach, who's a treatment operator. So we had a really good diverse amount of expertise to talk about the jobs, talk about the careers, a lot of material there to present to the kids. And we had some really genuine interest. And so that was cool. And it's always nice. I really enjoy talking to them and just asking them, do you even think about where your water comes from? Do you think about when you take a shower? And many people, not just kids, don't really realize that. It seems almost like it magically comes out of your faucet. And
I was one of those till I.
Yeah. yeah, so
I turned the water on. It was always there.
yeah, so it's really fun. And I was really excited to have that group there because it just really, we were prepared to answer a whole lot of questions. And then, in the bottom right there, we had that was the one just last week as well. That was at Calaveras. And we had Kate, Haley, and Banna, our new water resource specialists. They were all on board to answer questions, and it was the same scenarios, but another just fantastic event. Hot. It was pretty hot. Even though it wasn't hot, it was one of those the first hot days of the year. So it feels like it's 100 when it's really about 75, you know?
I thought it was hot yesterday. I think it was what,
Yeah.
74.
Oh, and I apologize. I should have.
We haven't today. It's
You have a
free
breeze,
reading
probably.
today.
Thank you, Kelly.
So what these are is this is a packet from our legal affairs committee. So this is something that I put together for our last legal affairs, and it's on our website. And the reason why I wanted to bring this to you guys today is just because I try to utilize that committee as a way for me to get some of this information out. We, on our website, there's links to some of the different items in here, such as the California, the conservation way of life through, and then also just some of the different information and some of the legislative items that we're tracking. So this is on our website. It's just I think a nice way for me to get that information out so other folks can see what we're working with, see what's going on in the background.
Nice. A lot of information in
Yeah.
here.
And so
A nice big print is amazing. True.
no, and if you go to our website, you'll see there's links too. So there's that draft regulation, there's the comment letter that we signed on to with Aqua and several other agencies. That's all linked on our website. So that's one we're really keeping an eye on, is that the conservation way of life, because I think we're gonna have to really do a lot of outreach as we move forward through that regulation once we figure out what the regulation really is going to be. So this is I think a nice way to kind of stay ahead of it and start hopefully getting that information out for our community. And then was that last week or 2 weeks ago, we did the Aqua Legislative Symposium, and same thing, one of the big topics there was that making conservation a California way of life. And one thing I like to note, and I was really excited, is we had Chelsea Haynes. She actually reported to this group, to the Legal Affairs Committee, and she was also one of the panelists out there. So she's definitely somebody that we've been working with on these comment letters, and she's very involved. And I thought of no better person to bring that to our Legal Affairs Committee and talk about this issue that we're facing.
Nice.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then we had another great event at the Mountain Counties event, the Regional Leaders Reception. Keynote speakers, we had Congressman Tom McClintock, Senator Maria Alvarado Gill, and Assembly Member Jim Patterson. I've heard a lot about Senator Maria Alvarado Gill, and I was very impressed. There's been a lot of folks in the Mountain County region that has, I've heard terms like she's one of the best we've had, and I think her energy really shows that. I think she's very charismatic and really has these foothills in mind. So I think that's really a great thing. Last week, President Thomas, you were at this meeting as well, the T-Stand meeting, and I thought that was great. We had a lot of times, I think when we go to that meeting, I feel like it's more Tuolumne focused. This one was a lot more Stanislaus focused, and that was great. We had a Utica Water and Power Authority put on a great presentation. Of course, they're going through their, FERC exemption relicensing, so they kind of went through a really good overview of their system, which is just, this amazing historic system. And another thing they talked about was the grant that they just got for some fuels thinning around Hunters, which is great for them, but great for us too, is that's, a secondary water source for us. We have our treatment plant there. So I think these fuel reduction projects are great. I think I didn't write it down because I don't know if I had the number right, but I think that was like a $1.2 million grant. Do you remember?
No,
Yeah, I think it was right around there. But anyways, it's a great,
Why do you call it a secondary water source?
well, that's our backup supply. We have pumps at the intake. At the bottom of that dam.
Oh, yeah.
And so, for example, when McKay's goes down for tunnel maintenance, we actually draw off of a Hunter's Reservoir.
Okay.
So
On Murphy's Sanitary District, who gave the presentation?
Dan,
Oh, Dan.
and
nice.
I was really
Nice.
impressed with him. He was fantastic. Yeah, I've met him, but just his passion for what he does. And I really loved how they talked about.
So did they get the grant, I guess is where I'm going.
I don't think they did. They're still working on it, and he gave a
Okay.
great presentation, all sorts of maps, mentioned that about 20% of that system is going to get replaced.
Oh,
They still have so much of that clay pipe, which I didn't realize.
yeah.
One thing I like that he brought to everyone's attention is these larger events like Irish Days and things like that. These
That's
huge
right.
economic hubs that put a huge strain
Uh-huh.
on the infrastructure. And they can't even get to, they don't even have access
Uh-huh.
to if there was an issue. So all that due diligence that goes into making sure that
Maintenance
system,
before.
making sure everything
flushing,
flushes during that, because
yeah.
you're not going to be able to fix it. So I think that's a really profound thing to take into consideration. And same thing, all that work is kind of on the backs of the local residents who live there to make sure that the infrastructure can handle these large events. I mean, as we all know, Murphy's is definitely an economic hub for this county, and those
There's only
events are,
3 guys that do all this.
yeah, so that was a great presentation. I really enjoyed it. On that last bullet point, they were looking for speakers, and
Right.
Director Sakita, I guess you mentioned
Yeah.
potentially having a tour or whatnot, and so I did throw Phoenix Energy in
Okay.
the ring to.
Well, the guy's a really good speaker.
Oh, he's
and I think
amazing.
it'll be
Yeah,
very
great.
interesting and branch out.
Oh, I think he'll be
Yeah.
great. He's
Yeah.
very engaging, and he's very passionate about it, and he could explain it really well. And so I think
Yeah.
he'd be a great speaker. And even before you mentioned it, there was somebody else who wanted to know more about biomass. I think everyone's kind of curious about
Yeah.
what it
Well,
is.
there's so much product turn into that, from these fires that they could use. To me, it's no brainer. They should be putting them
Right.
all along the Sierra foothills there,
Yeah. And even if there's really nothing to tour yet in our area,
Yeah.
but that North Fork, that's down by Madera, I believe, but that
Yeah.
one's coming online soon. So maybe we can
Mhm.
even go tour that.
That
I
would
think
be
that would be
good.
beneficial.
Oh, I might want to go to that.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good one. Okay, so this is kind of a presentation within a presentation.
Let me interrupt you for a second. Getting back to Dan's presentation, the takeaway for me and what he was saying was that during storm events, their system goes from on a normal day was 200,000 gallons a
Yeah.
day or something up to 1 million a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their storage reservoir is 13 million gallons, I guess. Is that am I
Yeah,
saying that right?
1.3, I think, gallons a day, 1.3 million gallons a day is the
So,
max, and they do 1 million or something.
so it's just really points to the fact that clay pipe is leaking badly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I&I is a huge issue for most,
Mhm.
wastewater systems, ours included. And I think that's why I was so inspired by that particular event is to, I get so caught up in CCWD and our service areas. It's really nice to hear these, not that these other agencies are having issues, but it's not unique. We're all struggling with older infrastructure and the importance of seeking funding and getting that replaced.
Were they adding the project to the IRWM plan? Is that what the presentation was for, or just a presentation on where they're at?
I don't,
Yeah, usually you have to have, when you're working on a project, you have them included in the plan, so you give a presentation and then consensus to accept them into the plan. I was just wondering if that happened.
I don't recall. I'm assuming if he presented it there, most likely, or maybe he was just kind of laying,
Yeah,
giving us an overview, but
I think that the whole IWRM structure is in most people's minds is just kind of idling
yeah.
until there's a decision
Till
from the
they-
Water Resources Board about.
you can definitely tell the tone of it's kind of in flux right now.
In flux,
And
yeah.
yeah, so we'll see more to
That's
come.
too bad, because a lot of people did a lot of good work to
Yeah.
make these happen, and I think they're working,
Right.
but
And I think it'll work, it'll still be there in some fashion. We just don't know what that new way it's gonna
Right.
look.
I want you to be a little sensitive about when you're referring to old infrastructure. I mean, with John and I in the room, we could be offended.
you're
So-
including
What about-
John in that?
What if I call it finally seasoned infrastructure?
Yeah,
See,
seasoned infrastructure.
Finally
That's good.
seasoned. I have some pictures of some seasoned infrastructure here in a moment. Well seasoned.
Well suited.
So I said earlier, this is a presentation within a
Yes,
presentation.
that's-
So EPOC asked CCWD to participate in this wildfire community preparedness day. I wasn't really familiar with this until then, but it's an annual thing to, making your community a fire-wise community. So I'm kind of new to this, and I said, absolutely, we'd love to. So they asked if CCWD can come do a brief presentation. We're going to have a booth out there, and I think it's in the Highway 4 corridor, and I think it's a great avenue for us to.
Where are they gonna have
It's
it?
going to be at Independence Hall on May
Oh, gotcha.
4th from 9 to 12. I don't know all the speakers, but again, we'll be one, and plus we'll have a booth there, so I'll be able to. So, of course, I'm going to try to, give a brief overview of the entire CCWD water district, because I think some people in each one of these areas don't understand that it might be larger than just Ebbets Pass or larger than Jenny
Right.
Lind and so on. So I'll make that quick plug. But of course, in this particular presentation, we're talking about the Ebbets Pass water system.
Why is it red? Because it's a fire area?
No, I thought about that. I shouldn't have made it red. No, it's just
Oh.
the outline color I chose, but then I'm glad you said that, because now I think I want to change it because I don't want it to seem like fire, but
Because that's the.
Yeah, that's just
area.
our-
Doesn't mean water, it's just the area of.
that's our service area. That's our
Gotcha.
water service
You
area.
might want to make it a different color.
Yeah, that's good feedback, and I did think of that because I don't want it
Yeah.
to look like fire. But that little blue section, that's Blue Lake Springs. So that's just an outline of the area in case folks.
I mean, I like the color, but.
And then again, I don't know if folks up there know that we call that system the Ebbets Pass system. I know there's been some confusion in that, but to us, that's the Ebbets Pass system. To folks up there, they might think, well, that's the Ebbets Pass. So of course, Arnold is basically where the scenic byway starts. So we're definitely at the gateway to the scenic byway. And again, as you guys know, hopefully you know, I'm very passionate about that water system. I spent a huge portion of my career up in that water system, and I just think it's amazing. It's the water treatment plant at Hunters, the 4 million gallon per day treatment plant capacity. We do about 1.3 million gallons per day on average out throughout the whole year. We have 12 storage tanks in the distribution system, one clear well too, but I don't really call a clear well a storage tank. So if you want to call the clear well storage tank, then we have 13. And all that storage comes out to be about 7 million gallons of storage at full capacity. This is another way I really like to look at the Ebbets Pass system, kind of understanding the topography that we work in. As you can see there, the treatment plant is pretty much at the lowest spot. And so those are all the tanks. We have a total of 9 pump stations to move all that water up, approximately 2,067 feet. And I think that's pretty amazing just to really wrap your mind around that, to how we're moving that water up the hill. Takes a lot of energy. And yeah, I think it's amazing.
Is the treatment plant, as you're coming up Highway 4, just before you make that last turn and you're gonna have the carpet places here, the carpet
No.
down there?
That's the wastewater treatment plant. The wastewater treatment plant's close to the taco truck, and there's that carpet
Yeah,
place there.
okay.
Yeah. Hunters is down by the Forest Service.
Oh, I know
there.
where Hunter's, sorry, is, yeah.
Yeah, on the way to
Okay.
Candy Rock or out towards Hunter's Reservoir. Yeah. But again, when I see that picture, I just think it's amazing moving all that water up that hill. It's amazing. And so I also want to take this up.
You said that there were 9. I counted 8, but you must be including a pump.
At the treatment plant.
Okay. If you have all these like stacked one on top of the other, pumping, there's got to be check valves to prevent it from suddenly running back down the hill or
Well,
something.
they pump into the tank. So the tank's kind of like the net that stop. And then, yes, all of our pump control valves are in fact check valves.
Okay.
They're double chamber clay valves that, even if power was to stop, there's this mechanism in there that power stops, that check's closed. And actually at the pump station, then there's a surge anticipators, because all that water going up at anywhere from 1,500 to 23 gallons a minute, depending on the pump station, that column of water is going to come back. And if it doesn't have anywhere to dissipate that energy, it's going to blow something up. So actually that valve senses the low pressure, opens up, that column comes back in and releases it back into the tank. So each one of these, they pump into a tank. And again, in series, each one of these sections is like an artery, you need that sequence to get the water all the way up. And so I wanted to take this time to also talk about some of the different projects we've done up there, which I think tie right in with a Firewise community. 'Cause a lot of these projects were either seasoned infrastructure or we've upsized it for better fire flow and more reliability. So
Is it-
this
It's Old Faithful.
Old Faithful. So this
Yeah.
is, I remember exactly where I was on this day. I didn't get to see it by the time I got on scene, it was shut off. Jesse Hampton was on call during this, and he still has his eyes bug out when he talks about it. I also believe Director Davison might have been in line. This was on a Friday, a 4th of July weekend. And happened in the afternoon. I was actually out in McKay's with my family where no cell service works. I come up over the hill, my cell phone just starts blowing up. But I can't really call anybody, but I can tell something happened. As I'm coming out from McKay's, I pull on to Love Creek Road, tons of cars, just cars everywhere. And what's going on? Then I get to the highway and traffic's backed up all the way down to Forest Meadows. So, because this is right by Snap.
What is it? Is it a pipe or a
Yep.
fire hydrant?
It's a pipe. It is that pipe right there.
Mm.
Wow.
That's what blew. And again, one thing with Reach 3A, most of my career, Reach 1 was supposed to get done first. We had way more leaks on Reach 1, but Reach 3A really started to have an uptick and we started to get more massive leaks like that. And the bad thing about that is it went through the heart of Arnold and there wasn't valve space appropriately. So leaks like this, we were shutting off almost all of downtown. And so restaurants, dentists, all these major businesses, and it was difficult. So
Nightmare.
we made that decision to bump Reach 3A on the CIP list ahead of Reach 1. So really, it's not that big of a hole if you think about it, but right there,
Yeah,
we
look
were
at the
pushing about
pressure.
200 PSI. So, and you can't really see it on the picture. Oh, no. I mean, I think the trees give it context and the vehicles give it context, but if you looked on that left one, you see that little person there?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness, I didn't notice that.
I mean, he might not be a little person. He's probably, 6 foot, but he looks little compared to that thing. But yeah, that's amazing.
Well, it does look like Old Faithful.
So that's
Yeah.
right off the freeway in the downtown area, right?
Yeah. Do you know where Snack, Sierra Nevada
Yeah.
Adventure Company?
Yeah.
It's maybe 100, 200 feet west of that.
Well, tell us the sequence of events. How'd you shut it down? How long did it take to get water back to the restaurants?
Quite a while. Fixing the leak, once we got it shut down, it wasn't too bad. I mean, there really was hardly any excavation because I think the pressure and the water pretty much cleared out the hole for
Volcano
us.
type look.
But one thing that happens here too is all of our pumps are controlled by SCADA and high levels and low levels. This kind of leak started to draw a low level at Sawmill, which kicked on the extra pumps at Meadowmont. That's just what it's supposed to do. The tank sees a low level, it thinks it needs more water. So we had to shut off those pumps because that was one thing. And then there's a huge 16-inch valve right by Meadowmont Pump Station. And then luckily there was another valve at the shopping center that we had installed some years ago because of this. Every time we had a leak, we tried to, if it was in the right spot, we had valves ready to go to where we can drop them in because that was one of the biggest problems. It wasn't valves appropriately spaced. So your outages were much larger than they should have been, which is not a problem now. We did a great job on the design of the new project, and every pressure reducing valve that feeds a certain area has a cluster of 3 valves. Because in this particular area, we can feed the water multi-directions. And so now, if we were to ever have this again, we shouldn't have it for hopefully at least 70+ years. That's at least that whatever crew is working on this kind of stuff in the future is going to have it a lot easier than us
I'm gonna say,
because they'll be able to keep the shutdowns very small.
were you able to get the water turned back on before the 4th of July festivities?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I mean, it was within 24 hours we had it back on.
So
Yeah.
in the parade, did they thank CCWD for fixing it in a timely fashion? They should have.
Well, This was in
Especially after seeing that.
this was in 2013. I remember this day, but I don't remember the parade.
Yeah.
I don't know if I went to the parade.
You were probably working.
Yeah, we're probably flushing. But I mean, it was a bad leak. It actually, the repair went very well. I do remember that, all things considered, once we got it isolated and shut down. A big problem was the cleanup on the lower side of the highway there. There was houses and it just washed a whole bunch of sediment down and I know we worked really closely with the fire department. They helped. There's also a church there, so a lot of sediment got run down into the
How,
church.
how long was it looking like that?
Is
A
the-
Again,
couple hours,
Was the
few hours?
water going? up?
I don't think,
Yeah, I
no,
mean-
no. I mean, Jesse was on scene very fast, and I know Jason Nick at that time, he worked up there. They got on it as quickly as they could. I don't think it was a geyser like that for more than an hour.
Yeah, nice. I'm sure people enjoyed the show too, but
Yeah, can you
have
imagine?
you guys been to Yellowstone and seen Old Faithful?
I have.
I know,
Yeah,
looks like that.
yeah.
Have you been there?
So again, that was Reach 3A. I think we have a really good pipeline in there now, all 12-inch ductile, all the way from Meadowmont, all the way up to Sawmill Tank. Again, appropriate valving. And then, of course, the Techite, another hub for that area or an artery. That was that old fiberglass pipe. I hated the Techite. Anytime it leaked, you can't really tell in that lower picture, but it's fiberglass and it would just blow a flap out. And it would drain that tank sometimes within minutes. It was horrible and it was difficult to fix. When you put clamps on it, it would flex. You could hear it making noises. There's a lot of times if you couldn't use a torque wrench, you'd over tighten it, it'd crack. So that's another pipeline that was just, it needed to go for a long time and
We don't have any more Techite
Nope.
out there,
it's
right?
all gone.
Good.
Yes.
Didn't they fill it with a slurry material? I seem to remember that they pumped the old pipe. They didn't remove it. They pumped it full. And every time they were pumping it, it was oozing out of the ground through undetected leaks. But the slurry was,
Well, I know they capped each, certain spots of it when, they concrete cap it. I don't think they slurried the whole thing. If I look into that because I'm curious. I don't recall that.
yeah,
We did some years ago, I don't know exactly what years before my time, they went under the highway there with new C900 and they used the slurry, they used the Techite as a casing. So they just slid the new C900
well,
through there.
find that out because that was my understanding from
Yeah, I'm curious.
back when it was occurring.
But yes, the Techite needed to go. So thank goodness the Techite is gone. And then there's Reach 1. Reach 1 is the main artery that feeds down below Hunters, Forest Meadows and below. Same thing. It was an old 8-inch steel pipe. Essentially every joint would leak eventually. It was mortar lined, steel wrapped mortar lined, and each joint, if there was any deflection, there was no mortar there, and it's just been basically corroding since the day it was put in, since the 60s. So we got really good at fixing that pipeline. And same thing, there wasn't the appropriate valves. Throughout the years, we added valves. And we designed that similar to how we designed Reach 3, because basically above Forest Meadows, we can backfeed it. So now the way we valved it is you can backfeed from Forest Meadows while any leaks are being repaired. Again, hopefully there's no leaks on there for a long time. There shouldn't be.
Was that Reach 3 and Reach 1 done by Mozingo? Do you-
No, Reach 3A was TNS construction. Reach 1 was Mozingo, Reach 3 was TNS,
Okay.
and Techite was KW Emerson. So again, I like to look at this picture too. I mean, you can see those are the way I call them arteries, and these are, I think CCW did a great job of identifying these massive projects, these CIP projects, and or that community is now in a lot better shape, having been replaced. And again, most of it's 12-inch ductile now.
Do you have the cost in this presentation for that and how much was paid by grant? Because wasn't there grant options on that?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I didn't write down all the costs. There was, I think
Because
Reach
in the
3 was
presentation,
6.7
you might
million.
want to mention that.
Right,
especially
right,
with
right.
Grant.
Yes. So one thing this one's going on a little longer, I think, because my passion, but they prefaced for this presentation that it could be no longer than 10 minutes, because I guess last year's got a little contentious with people talking about fire insurance, all this. So they said, we had a kickoff meeting not too long ago. They said no more than 10 minutes. So I think I'm
Yeah.
already messing that up, but
And
I'll be quicker on the
yeah,
4th.
no, I'm enjoying this presentation. One of the other things regarding cost, was there a loan for it? I guess I'm trying to is there any way to say, oh yeah, this was paid back when kind of a thing, and what fiscal year, if Be prepared for it. in case somebody
Absolutely. No,
asks, I
absolutely. No, I think
guess.
that's a great idea. And that's something I can touch on really briefly. And I think that's crucial.
Yeah.
You're right.
I think I see both male and female ends of the pipe there, so that looks like it's some kind of a gasket that just pops
Yeah,
out.
every joint was restrained on all those projects. I forget the exact name. They're interesting. They're like these split, you put a gasket in there and you put these split rings in there, and then you actually give the pipe a little tug. And each joint is restrained on all those projects.
So, and it doesn't require any external mechanism, it's all internal.
It's kind of like the gasket material. There's a gasket, and again, it's weird. They put in these metal lockers, and then they put these like they almost look like sticks of black licorice to me. They're like these little rubber things that kind of keep the lockers spaced. And they go in there the appropriate way. And then again, they give each one a tug because they will expand too. So they give it a tug to make sure it's locked.
Somehow or other, I'm changing the subject a little bit, but we've got the tanks 1 and 2 up in Jenny Lind. That I was told is ductile iron pipe, but it was gonna have to be welded connections. So surely they're gonna use this instead of a welded connection.
Perhaps something, I don't know how that particular project is being designed, maybe something that came up to the tanks, maybe there's some requirement for that to be welded, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Most of this was mechanical fittings or bell and spigot like that.
Your next engineering committee, you should
Mhm.
make that comment, because if this is working really good, why
Mhm.
change it
Yeah.
and do this?
Yeah, and I know on the A to B transmission main, they're doing the same style. I mean, each joint is going to be restrained similar to this, yeah. And so again, I think if we're talking about fire protection and fire-wise communities, I think the Redwood Tank Project is a great example of that. Since 2017, we replaced 8 Redwood tanks with 7 glass line steel tanks. 2 of them were completed in 2017. The last 5 were just recently completed. Now up there on the pass, we only have 1 more Redwood tank. That is at Timber Trails.
So I'm gonna ask probably a stupid question, because of the fire. Can these steel glass tanks melt under the right conditions or degrade somehow from fire?
It's my understanding that yes, I mean, they're highly fire resistant. But I would think that I'm no expert on that part of it, but I would think that if a hot enough fire comes through, there's going to be some damage.
Timber trails,
That's what we
Yes,
clear around them.
right.
yeah.
The tank, the picture on the right with the person standing there, is that a 1,000,000-gallon tank or what's the size of that? Do you recall?
No, those aren't a million. I mean, they're probably 130,000, most of them. They're not all the same, but yeah, that one's not a million.
Okay.
Maybe I messed with maybe I made it look bigger in the picture, manipulating the image.
So,
Maybe that's not a person.
No, on the right there, that's the fitting, that's the coming up
Yeah,
into the pipe.
so the,
A lot of times it comes into the pipe and then there's like a baffling system in there to mix the water as it comes in.
that is a pipe, I guess.
yeah.
Then I was going to touch on same thing. I mean, this is a little bit out of the Ebbets Pass system, but we still consider Sheep Ranch kind of part of the Ebbets Pass. I mean, the crew up there works on both those systems. And again, this is another great project for, improving communities' fire preparedness. We partnered with Calaveras County to install a 125,000-gallon fire tank. Now that tank is specific, it just fills with raw water, and there's now a purple fire hydrant there that they can draft off of. And I remember actually on the day we had the ribbon cutting,
I was there.
a fire started up the hill.
I was just gonna ask.
That wasn't planned. That wasn't there was no theatrics there, but a fire.
But they used it.
They did.
those
They
tanks,
filled it
yeah.
up. It was amazing. I mean, they got the fire out quickly and it wasn't, a major issue, but the irony there was, I can't explain it.
Yep, so it got its initiation or whatever.
Yeah, and we repurposed that tank. That wasn't a new tank. That was a
Right.
tank we already had. So another great project.
Well, that was a collaboration with the county too. They
Yeah, yeah.
invested some money.
And so talking about Sheep Ranch, I think this is a great opportunity for me to also educate folks up there that White Pines is the water source for Sheep Ranch. So some people don't know that. I think that's very interesting. And then I can also talk about the recent projects we did around the Tules and some of that sediment removal. which again, I just went to a White Pines committee meeting last week, and I don't know if you guys have seen White Pines since this, but now that it's full, it's amazing. There's so much more shoreline. The right around the spillway looks really good. I mean, the spillway has been Thule's for so long. But again, I think this summer it's going to really be nice because they just did a fantastic job, but it just looks beautiful. And there's so much more shoreline now. And then talking about some of the other fuel thinning projects that we're involved in a few years ago, our Arnold wastewater treatment plant, we did a 91-acre fuel thinning project. We're currently working on the Dowds fuel break project, which is 145 acres out at Dowds Landing. I call it Dowds Landing. Some people call it Dowds Ridge. I did report on this a while back to the board. Very interesting. This Dowds Ridge was a huge part in stopping the Darby fire. I mean, I'm working with Pat McGreevy from Cal-Am. He sent me some pictures of this subdivision on fire during this. So this is a really important thing to be working on. And both these projects were USDA Forest Service grant funding, a little over $500,000 for each one. Or not each one, excuse me, combined. I think Arnold wastewater was about 250 and Dow's one is 349 or something like that, 339. So again, I wanted to communicate that not only are some of these fuel thinning projects and these fuel breaks not only good for the community, really good for our infrastructure and good for our watersheds. Once we start talking about the watershed and the North Fork project, I'm just beyond excited because that's another amazing thing that I don't think a lot of folks understand. I ran into a friend of mine the other day I grew up with. She's lived up here all her life. She had no idea about Spicer and McKay's and Highland and all this. And I just talked her ear off for
Who was
probably
this that lived here, didn't know?
a lot of people. A lot of people don't really understand the magnitude of it. So, briefly, I was going to touch on the fact that the North Fork project, is this amazing infrastructure and makes all this possible. So again, there's Spicer last year, plumb full, looking nice as ever. McKay's Reservoir, again, another beautiful one last year when it spilled, just a magnificent piece of infrastructure. And that's going to be my presentation to the Firewise event. So I'm really looking forward to that. I was Googling it the other night because I wanted to know what this event was all about. And I found some old local newspaper clippings of it. And it said like standing room only and this and that. So I think it's a very well attended event. And I'm honored that CSWD is going to have a
I
booth
think
there.
I'm gonna put it on my calendar.
Yeah, May the 4th. So if you're it might interfere with any Star Wars plans if you're a May the 4th be with you type of person.
What's it called? The
Firewise. Yeah.
And
They have a
what
big
time?
banner in Arnold, everything. So, and there's going to be several other booths there as well, I believe.
What time is that?
9 to 12. And I think there's a free barbecue as well that,
I'll be there. So
yeah, the solid waste company is going to be donating.
the last two pictures, those drone photos, are those Kelly's?
Those are Kelly's, Kelly G's.
You should put your little bug on those pictures. Are really quite impressive.
Last year, the water in the background where Beaver Creek comes in,
Mhm.
I've never seen it like last year. I have some other footage where it just churned up the entire reservoir. It was insane, the amount of power coming out of that tunnel. Or it's more penstock, not a tunnel, but still it was a sight to see.
And they have a generator there.
No, but I did hear that you could equip a generator on that. They don't have one, but I think it was built where they could add one. I don't know the size of it, but there's never been one there. And so that's the end of that presentation. And then I wanted to just kind of tie back to the strategic plan and where I think this presentation fits into it. On February 27th, I gave a kind of a brief overview of some of what I like to call is the pulse. I put that down on the bottom there, the objectives pulse. And so for this particular presentation, I went through each slide and each event and kind of gave myself a scorecard, so to speak, for what each event, how it tied in with our strategic plan, whether it be an event or if I'm communicating watershed health or if I'm communicating infrastructure. And this is kind of the scorecard that this first presentation, how I see kind of came out. And so
Explain the percentages to me, how you arrive at that. So your presentation, 26% of the presentation you felt went through customer experience?
Yeah, and so I tallied it up. And so like, as I went through on the objectives, so for instance, customer experience,
5 objectives or whatever.
yeah, so I looked at all the
Gotcha.
objectives, I just gave a tally mark, so if I'm doing a high school event, where did that high school event fit into our strategic
Objectives.
plan? Like the career fair, succession planning or communicating. There's so many items in there, so I would give it maybe two dashes. The career fair might have checked off a few different things, enduring organization and whatnot. So nothing too sophisticated, just some dash marks, and then I put it into a graph. But I think what it represents to me is like so many different things that we do constantly are always in line with that strategic plan. Even, the legal affairs pamphlet checks off several marks on that. Getting this legal affairs information out into the community on our website, I think is crucial. So again, what I liked was that lower one. To me, it's like a pulse. Maybe that's how my brain is just seeing it, but it just kind of gives me a perspective of maybe where we could work on more items or whatnot. And so this was one I did a while ago, and this was just over a few
Is
months.
this on the website, or what do we do with this, that report, that graph and stuff we're looking at? Do you send it out to us?
No, right now, this is only on the website through what we'll put out, for instance, this meeting.
Okay.
And so, you can go back and look at the presentations and see that.
Okay, so I'd have to go to the presentation, not so much.
Yeah, and I would prefer if people would take the time to watch it, that way you get the full context. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the great things about these committee meetings is you get,
Yeah, because looking at that,
You might not
perhaps
understand.
Know, and I had to ask
Right.
questions, so, okay.
yeah. And so, you guys have any other questions on that? I said, just a real rough, basic way for me
I
to,
wonder if, sorry,
no, go
when
on.
you go to the website, they may not know how to do the presentation, just say, how did our external relation or external affairs report, whatever, and then make the click, and that'll take you to the presentation to make them watch the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think,
Something along those lines.
yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned website because I have a few updates on that. We did meet with the team the other day and they think they can get it going live within 60
the
days.
streamline. Okay,
Yeah, as
good.
opposed to 90. So right now we're looking at around June 17th to go live.
Mhm.
But with the videos, one thing is right now we're linking to the videos. So you link on it, it's a YouTube link and it takes you to YouTube, which is fine. But we want to start embedding them into the website so it keeps folks on the website. So we don't drive them to another platform. We keep them. So hopefully we can start embedding them and make it more of a user experience, improve that user experience, and hopefully people start seeing the videos. Because I know, sitting down and watching a video might not be the best thing, but I think, for example, Damon's presentations
Oh,
are
it's
fantastic. And
Yeah.
what makes that presentation so good is how he presents it. And I think that's crucial to a lot of these presentations. Same thing with Kelly's presentations, not just looking at, her charts and everything, which are fantastic, but just
It's the
getting
presentation.
the explanation really makes the experience
But
better.
somehow on the website, getting them to know what they're gonna go watch, here's, instead of just, well, anyhow, you're doing it,
Yeah. Well, I think we are doing it and I think we're going to improve that. And it's just now it comes to hoping people want to engage in it. It's our job to give them that option and to make and present it. And
Well, let me tell you a funny thing. So we have YouTube TV at home. That's what we stream with. And I went on to watch the engineering meeting. Okay, in my office, I was watching it or something. And at the last meeting, Fred texts me and says, "You're live on TV." And I'm like, "What? Did you know your meetings are live on TV?" And I'm, huh? So what happened is because we have that service, it put it up there and it always tells you all these other options. So here comes all these other meetings. So he clicked on it and he thought it was live, but it was a recorded one. And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know it was live." So anyhow, he thought it was pretty cool.
well, it's somewhat live right now. If you log in, not live through YouTube, but hopefully,
Yeah.
I think it's great. I think it's great if people logged on right now and
So
saw
you
it
can
live.
watch the-
And engaged with us, asked us a question, maybe I didn't explain something appropriately. And I think it'd be great if someone said, "Hey, what about this?" Or
Yeah.
that's how we also get better is learning, for instance, the notes that you guys gave me today about
Yeah.
finding out some of those costs, or the red color, or calling it seasoned infrastructure. You know, these are nuggets that are
They
crucial.
are.
Yeah.
Nice job.
That concludes it. And again, here's some great, you know, there's that video again. There's a great picture of Joe, I think Darby there on the right. They fixed we've had a couple of weekends of leaks, so we've tried to, you know, push that out on social media too, just letting folks know what's going on out there. And hopefully these guys will get a break this weekend and get a weekend and not be fixing leaks.
So to summarize, we've got the website potentially live June 17.
Yeah, right now, that's the date we're shooting. for. Yeah.
Presentation going on for customer outreach. What about surveys? Have we done anything on surveys at all?
We have. I have about a 10-question survey right now, but I want to wait till the website's ready so we can have it on the website. My
Okay,
vision
so
for that.
there's not one out there yet. We're waiting.
No, because
Okay.
I'd rather not
get it.
recreate it or transfer it. The
I
way
understand.
I see it is I'd like to have that survey static on the website, on the homepage. It's always going to be there. It'll be not just a survey that's on there for a month or a certain campaign. It's always on there. So you can
No,
always,
okay.
yeah. And so I'd like to have that again, front and center on the website. I
Yeah.
think since we're so close to launching it, it'll be worth
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just to wait that little extra time and get it on there.
No, thank you. I think that makes sense. So June 17.
And I know that you mentioned you wanted to be a part of the questions. So at one point I had 30 different questions, not that I would use 30 questions, but maybe I can present something and we can kind of go through them and see.
I was gonna say, you know, identifying what the objectives are and making the survey short and sweet, I think. You know,
Yes.
I don't know if that's important or not, but I would like to have a discussion on that. And, you know, tell us what your objectives are for a particular one. We could add to it or
Right.
whatever. I would like that if we could. You know,
I-
at some point in this meeting.
I think that would be key. What you just said is short and sweet. We don't want it so long that it deters people from taking it. We also don't want it so short that it's not, we don't really
Not
get any
worth your
value out of
time.
it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
finding that balance will be interesting. So hopefully we can put something together that we all agree on
Yeah.
and are happy with.
Yeah, I'd like that sometime in the future. I think that'd be cool. And discuss as a group what
After the
we're looking for.
after the 17th.
Yeah, after the 17th.
Okay.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Do we have anybody viewing online that might want to ask a question? If so, raise your hand.
Do we have online public or just?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, gone.
All right.
Well,
Thank you so
Kelly.
much.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Kelly.
And good luck on Saturday, the 4th. That should be,
I'm gonna see you there, I think. I'm gonna try and go.
I'd like to be there as well. Although that's almost the last day of turkey season, so.
Okay,
Okay, moving on. We have another Kelly presentation. How about Kelly Richards?
Good afternoon, Director Cicada, President Thomas.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Hello. Have to excuse me, I'm a little under the weather today, so
Oh.
I'm probably going to keep this a little bit shorter than normal. Although I know I always say that and it ends up going longer than I anticipate, so. Customer service update for you all today. There we go. So did just want to touch on productivity and customer service for the month of March. Not anything really, you know, over and above what we normally have going on right now, obviously with new staff in finance and some other kind of hot topics and hot items right now, including budget and implementation for Tyler. We're kind of wearing many hats, and so just kudos to our customer service staff who have been just kind of plugging along and maintaining as per the usual. And so I did just want to share from March, our top inquiries included customer side and district side leaks and any kind of water concerns. We did seem to have an elevated number of calls for the month of March concerning leaks. And so we're not sure if folks are turning on irrigation systems, checking and prepping for the summertime, but it did lead to an increase in leak adjustment inquiries as well. So a little uptick there for the month of March. And then we've been messaging out for several months now that we, as a district, are going to be reinstating our past due notices and late fees. And so we've had a number of customers who reached out in the month of March specifically asking for a little more detail on that. And you know, since we have not been you know, issuing these notices and late fees for the last almost 4 years, a lot of questions from newer customers and kind of what that means. So just some elevated customer assistance in those areas for that month. One thing I did want to report on, our average calls per day were about 43. Average handle time was about 3 minutes and 45 seconds, which is great. That's actually down by 15 seconds. So we're getting a little more seasoned, since that's the word of the day. Seasoned in our response.
You get this info from the answering system?
Correct.
Nice.
Right. I get a number of analytics from the answering system, from the phone system, and not to take away from the phone system we currently have, but as a part of our process here, especially for customer, you know, related interactions, we want to evaluate the systems and softwares that we're using. And so right now there's a collaborative happening between customer service and our IT administrator on how well our current phone software and phone provider is serving us, and if there are other options that might be able to provide the same service or more for lower cost or higher reliability. They might have a little bit more of a robust system for us to be able to manipulate the phone tree or absorb more analytics, those types of things. So we're exploring that right now. And I think that coincides with, you know, some of the response that we've gotten in the past about the customer surveys, satisfaction surveys. We're trying to look at that from multiple areas and how we can address that. Obviously, as Kelly stated earlier, a satisfaction survey element on the website is going to be very productive, but it shouldn't just be there for a period of time. Same with the phone. So we're reevaluating the phone system right now. Not to say that we're going to make any changes, but we're on hold just for a minute on doing any kind of satisfaction options through the phone system, because we truly want to make sure that, you know, if we're staying with our current solution, that we can build something like that, or if we go to a new solution, what that will look like. So just want to share that.
Question, how much history do you have logged with the call analytics? And where I'm going with this is, you know, I see the wait time 48 seconds. Okay, so based on history, are you guys planning on setting a goal of, you know, the wait time being no longer than whatever?
Right.
And have you talked about that yet and have an idea of what a goal might be?
So again, I have responded, or I have reported in the past, that because we've had fluctuations in staffing in customer service, it's been really difficult to gauge our success because we've been understaffed. We've had, you know, projects going on. Now we're training a CSR. Our team right now is very dynamic, and we're getting to a point where some of our analytics and things that are being reported back are exactly what I want to be seeing. And so I think we're getting to a point now where I can start setting benchmark goals for us so that we can work as a team to achieve those and hopefully surpass any kind of other industry-wide benchmarks for customer service.
Maybe we could say by July 1, you might have any goal to set? Is that?
Well,
far
yeah,
out?
and I think, you know, what I'm trying to report
I
on
would say
here is
just
that
on
we've
one.
We've met actually a goal that I was hoping we would meet. We actually surpassed it. So just in circling back to the total percentage of staff hours where we're handling calls is about 14. Average wait time is 48 seconds. So again, these are things that I'm going to start tracking now that we're fully staffed. But if you look at the graph, that first smaller graph there, percentage of calls answered. So I went back all the way to May of last year, and what I'd like to start doing, and I know it's small, I'm going to reorganize this. I want to start reporting year over year as we start
previous
doing
year
it.
at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so right now, so this might start looking a little different as we move forward. But back in May of last year, when we were fully staffed with 3 CSRs, we were at 78% of calls answered in the first attempt. Now we're at 80. So
Nice.
we're surpassing where we were around this
Good.
time last year, which is excellent for our staff. And then again, when we're looking at percentage of calls to voicemail, because we're either, somebody's out of the office, or we have meetings going on, or we're helping other customers, that's also decreased by 4%. So
Nice.
I'm
Good
really,
job.
really proud of the customer service staff in there. Everybody's working very well, and I look forward to kind of tracking this as we go along. And this is helpful to me as well, because I can make sure that we have, the resources that the staff needs, the training that the
Right.
staff needs, and then we're also addressing our customers in a timely manner. So more to come here.
Nice.
For sure.
Thank you.
I always get this, Becca, this is the bane of my existence. I swear I'll get it one of these days. So customer portal and our customer assistance programs. March membership for the customer portal was up about 91 accounts, which is
Good.
great.
Yeah.
And again, still working with Tyler to implement some additional analytics for member account types. And this goes back to previous conversations we've had, where I would like to determine how many of these customer accounts are singular to a location, or if we have multiple. And so I'm working with Tyler on that. It's been a little slow going just because we have kind of multiple fires going right now with Tyler as far as the portal, and then our implementation and for financials and payroll and HR. And then I'm also separately working with Tyler on some new offerings that they have for customers. So kind of got multiple irons in the fire and trying to work with them on several different things, but analytics is one of them for the portal specifically. We're still working with them to resolve some isolated data inconsistencies. And what we're finding is obviously that has to do, I think, with really understanding the data that's being sent over from the AMI system and how it's being populated onto the portal for customers to see. What we're finding, and here's a just very specific example, if we have any part of our AMI network that is down for any reason, maybe there's a battery issue, or the antenna needs to be replaced, or something along those lines, what will happen is it won't be pulling the data from the communicator nodes that are on the meters. Now, these nodes on the meters have backups, so they're storing this data, but it's not populating onto the network because the collector where that specific meter is tied to might be down. And so if a customer goes online and they see a gap, maybe they had consumption up until 3 days ago, and now all of a sudden they're not showing any
Is
consumption.
that kind of like what the public Francisco, I think, connection was going on? So we're talking
Right,
about-
so they're
Okay.
still investigating these. I've sent them a number of different accounts to investigate, and Francisco's was one of them.
Okay, good.
And so they're still working in there to determine whether or not these are like outage periods. And then also how to coordinate when the data comes through, how to back populate data. So that's one of the things that I'm working with Tyler on, to have a mechanism in place for those outage periods, where we still need to get that data up on the customer portal for the customer to see, but there may be gaps. And so I'm working with them on that. And then obviously, still working with them on configuring additional district-specific messaging options, and maybe tailoring it a little bit more to what we're looking for. I'm finding that to be a little bit more difficult than I thought. And, unfortunately with Tyler, some of their products that they roll out are more just kind of out of the can, this is what you get. You can make recommendations, you can bring up ideas, and they'll try to incorporate them in, but they don't necessarily provide you a timeline on that. They will bring it to development, and if development can work on it and roll it out, they will do that. But we're kind of at the whim of Tyler on those things, but I'm keeping communication with them and having those conversations on a regular basis.
Can I ask a question on the CAP program?
Sure.
I think in our finance committee meeting, we did the policy update. Are those in effect now, or do they have to come to the board?
They have to come to the board.
Okay, and
So
that's not going to be tomorrow.
no, that'll be the next board
Okay.
meeting. So we are right in the thick of the renewal process for our customer assistance program. So it's happening now. I think I got confirmation from staff today that all letters will be mailed out as of today. So they kind of went in sections, but they've all gone out, will all be sent out as of today. They'll have until roughly the end of May. They'll need to check their letters. There's a date that they'll need to submit by, and that will be, again, just so we're all on the same
Yeah.
page, 237 spots for water and 175 spots for wastewater.
Can I, did you or any staff happen to see a presentation in a magazine? It was sent to me via email. It's about AMI. It says everything that could possibly go wrong in AMI rollouts already has, and they've learned from it. Have you guys seen that?
No.
Okay, I will send it to you
I would
guys.
love to
'Cause
see that.
because it really focused on, here's what we know what happened. I think we went through every one of them. And so working with integration with billing is in here and stuff.
That's
I'll send
great.
it to you.
That's
So-
great. Thank you. I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll do it right now.
I certainly
Or
don't
in a few
want,
minutes anyway.
okay. And I don't want to steal
Article.
Damon Wyckoff's thunder, but we are in talks to participate in July down in Southern California at the California Nevada AWWA summer workshop. It's a journey to AMI. And so they will have speakers on a panel that will be speaking to their.
Are you guys on that
journey,
panel?
and we've been invited to
Yes.
attend. So
Attend or present.
Yeah.
present and also answer questions. So,
If only we had that, huh? I mean, you
Right.
know what I mean?
well, and I
But
think
that's
this
great
is
you're
a
sharing.
great opportunity for other agencies as well to hear, you know, the
absolutely.
positives and some of the trials and tribulations that other agencies.
The word I was looking for was article. Anyhow, I will send that off to you.
So really good. Yes, I would love to see that. And I think that obviously our CAP policy, we came to finance committee and proposed some changes, and those are in progress and are slated to be presented at our next board meeting. LIWAP, our low income household water assistance program through ADCA in the state, is officially ended. It was very successful for us here at CCWD. And I think, you know, just keeping that communication with ADCA, and I'll be maintaining that communication with our contacts over there so that if anything else comes to the forefront for customer assistance, we can, you know, really take advantage of that and be the first to assist our customers. But obviously, state of California is seeking a longer term program in the future. So I'm sure I'll have more to report on that as well as we move forward. And that's all I have for today. Are there any questions?
I think I've already asked mine. I'll send you that AMI article
Great.
because I think it might enlighten
Great, thank you.
what's going on.
I just have one question for you. It's been 7 or 8 months now since everything blew up in September and our rates were way too high and irresponsible and whatnot. I'm just curious, are you aware if there's a measurable amount of calls that are specifically chewing on us about, you know, your rates are just out of sight?
It's interesting that you asked that because I did have a conversation with our customer service ladies this morning and asked them specifically, you know, what kind of calls are we getting and is there anything specific that you want me to put in here, which is where I found out, you know, we had kind of an uptick in leak calls and inquiries and leak adjustments. We have not had a lot of calls in for the rates. I think when they first rolled out and we started billing, we did. And actually, oh, you took it out. One of the, if you go back in and look at our call volume for December and January, you'll see that they're a little bit higher. Normally our November, December, January, February timeframe, all of those tend to be around the same kind of, they kind of plateau. But we had an influx of calls, and you'll see December, we had a little over 1,000, which is kind of unheard of for that time frame. And that was really when we had the bulk of our, thank you, Becca. The bulk of our calls were happening around the December and January timeframe for the rates. And we've seen them kind of drop off a little bit. So they're not really, I would say, you know, what it really would come down to, Russ, is we would have to probably track the basis of every call that we receive, which we're not in a capacity to do it right now. But I can tell you, the ladies are normally pretty communicative if there's a specific topic that keeps getting brought up, because ultimately in that case, I will want to reach out to Jeff, to Michael, to Kelly and say, hey, you know, we're getting inundated with calls for this. Is there any information or additional outreach we can do on that? And they have not come forward and let me know that we're receiving an inordinate amount of calls for the rates.
Okay, well, you're confirming my suspicions that maybe the fire has gone down a little bit on those sentiments. You have any more questions?
No, not for Kelly. Thank you.
Any questions online? No questions online.
Thanks, Kelly.
Okay.
Go home and feel better.
Thank you, Bo. Oh, I'll be here, but thank you.
So, General Manager Minkler, were you waiting outside just for the specific time?
I just want to congratulate both Kellys on fantastic presentations today. Really appreciate it, guys. Yeah, I'm sorry I was so late. I had another meeting that was
But it's
conflicted.
time for your general manager comments. So,
All right. Hey, at least I didn't miss that.
yeah.
The meeting I was just in was a Mountain Counties Water Resources Association meeting that Kelly was in. Kelly G, I guess I have to be specific here, had kind of been involved in the early planning process. And so we're talking about a planning effort to attract legislators on a tour of some of the Highway 4 infrastructure. And so there was a coordinating meeting on that front to see if we can get Senator Alvaro Gill to be sort of the champion of that effort. And then, you know, very preliminary, but still, you know, trying to put together a good event. So, you know, rough time frame right now, we're looking at September. So we'll keep y'all posted on that front. Other than that, we have a board meeting tomorrow, so I'll
Everybody's busy.
reserve the remainder of my comments.
All right, moving on to item 6, director comments or future agenda items. Do you have
That's
anything?
me. Again, thanks for your presentations. It was really nice. And when I looked at the agenda for this meeting, I was a little surprised not to see, you know, performance tracking and stuff. And so I've learned we're going to put them under your reports, which is fine. And I think we got note, like maybe just under, like, for instance, customer service, just some bullet points of what you might be talking about, just to better, so customers can see what it is. And, you know, what am I trying to say, Michael? Anyhow, just a better transparency of what we'll be updating, whether it's CAP program, Tyler update, Kelly on yours, you know, survey website, you know, that kind of thing, bullet point it. And then that way, I think for me, when we get to that bullet point, I can focus more on those questions instead of your first presentation. But I just want to make sure that we keep moving forward on the tracking and the strategic plan. I think I'd like to see on there some way, somehow, just reviewing those. And your presentation, Kelly, on the strategic plan was awesome. How we did your percentages, that was really cool. But anyhow, just have an area to be able to discuss a little bit more with us if we could, whether it's bullet points or a separate line item, I would appreciate, but you know. Other than that, it was, thank you.
Okay, that was a general request. You want to put anything on the agenda for at this time?
I'd like to look at the strategic plan goals for customer service
Okay,
and discuss those at the next meeting if possible. Maybe we could say, okay, let's discuss a couple of them or whatever. You know, I have my book right here. And I think I'd like to talk a little bit more of how we're tracking, how we're achieving those goals. And Kelly, you made a great presentation on your percentages, you know, of what your presentation focused on, but tracking like, let's say that staff gets together and let me go to my, since I'm gonna look at it real quick. So on customer service objectives, you know, instill a district-wide customer culture that fosters positive customer experiences, improve communications, blah, blah, blah. So maybe we focus on number 2, improve the communications. So let's say that we decide, let's make it a point that this fiscal year, we're gonna make sure we do 10 items of how to do communication. I know we've already done so much, but now we could say our goal was 10 and shoot, we've done 25. You know what I mean? Throughout the year, if we could set up some kind of a system, and you might already be doing it. And if so, sharing it every quarter or something. But anyhow, that's what I'd like to talk about at the next meeting, if that, you know, see what everybody else feels about it. See, you just made me elaborate a little bit.
okay, does that conclude your comments?
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Unless you say something else to me.
okay. Kelly R., I'm really intrigued about this invitation that you've received to come and talk about the AMR trials and tribulations. You weren't invited to come there by Tyler, I don't suppose. So, who actually extended the invitation?
And you know what? I need your email. Maybe you can send me an email, so I'll forward it to you and you can send it to the article. Okay.
So the invite for the speaker series was actually from Mueller.
Oh.
And there's going to be 4 other meter companies with representatives from other agencies that are utilizing their AMI systems that are going to be reporting. So there's a total of 4 panelists. Damon's going to be one of them. And then Pat and I have also been invited as a part of the Q&A. This actually, I'm familiar with this as an offering through AWWA. They've done it before. When I was at an agency prior to CCWD, we were going through an AMI implementation and we sent utility staff to this workshop, and it was very rewarding. And so this is kind of an opportunity for us to speak on not only the AMI implementation, but, you know, just kind of some of the unique challenges that we had just due to our geography and where we're located and just how, you know, widespread we are. But not only that, just implementing at the same time as a CIS system or ERP system as
Lessons
well.
learned.
And right. And so we think these are very critical elements to speak on and, you know, ultimately assist other agencies within the area who are looking to move forward with AMI. So.
Well, you've heard me say this before, but it was the Mueller reps that told me at a recent meeting, is the one in Palm Desert, that, gosh, if we'd have known that you were, you know, considering changing your accounting software at the same time, we would have cautioned you against doing that. And remind them that should have been something that they should have inquired about. And,
Right. And I wasn't here at the time, but I think there were conversations about that actually that had happened. And there were some green lights and thumbs up that were given on behalf of both entities. So lessons learned, I think agency-wide, district-wide. And if we can communicate that to other districts as something that we've lived through, I think it holds a lot more water and has a lot more meaning we've lived it. So, yeah, definitely a good opportunity, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
And for sharing, letting others know what happened so they don't have to
Right.
go through it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before you step away, there's no urgency involved in this request, but I have developed a sensitivity to the trauma that customers often get when they open up an envelope and they get this massive bill because there was a water leak that was running while they were gone on vacation or something. So how difficult would it be to come back to some future meeting, whether I think I'd like to start here rather than taking it to the board. But what do we charge to fill a water truck per gallon? You know, just like a out of a meter treated water, and then compare that to what the customer gets on his bill because it has tiers involved and the water goes up the more that leaks, the quantity, the price per gallon goes up the more that leaks because you get into a higher tier. Could we have a comparison between if we visualize this leak as something that would be more comparable to what it would charge to fill a 3,000 gallon water truck? And I'd just like to, because I don't have those figures in my head. I think that we get maybe a little bit out of line with the charges that we expect people to pay, even though they're cut in half, but it can only happen every 5 years for them to get that 50% forgiveness. But I don't know, we go out and routinely flush 200,000 gallons of water down the street just because we need to, and nobody picks up the tab for that. But I'm just, maybe I'm overreacting to this. What I think is we get a black eye every time that happens in the community. People talking, oh my God, I had to pay $1,500 extra. So
Shall we have them bring the leak adjustment policy here to review? Would
yeah,
that be good?
right. Yeah, that the leak adjustment policy and just I'm looking for a proportionality. Just if in fact we're charging people a higher rate per gallon for an accidental I don't know, once in a lifetime, hopefully, situation as compared to what a person pays for the water that he's refilling his water truck, and glad to pay that price per gallon.
Water trucks that usually get that, is that treated water or is
They
it
get
a
it
raw
out of,
water?
they get it out of a fire hydrant.
Okay.
So it's the same
That's same
product.
water, just,
And if it can be demonstrated to me that we're charging an equal amount, then I'll shut up about it. But I'd like to know that for sure.
I'd like to look into that. I think that's would be worthy.
The accidental component of that is just I don't know, it just rubs me the wrong way. So I sure would appreciate it. Okay, on to item number 7. This is probably the most pleasant part here, but no, it's not the most pleasant part, but I too enjoyed both your presentations, and we're quite lucky to have both of you. I'm constantly aware of that. Next meeting, May 28th at 1:00 PM.
Come on.
So with that,
28.
unless there's some final comments from the public, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we are in adjournment. Thank you for attending.
That suggestion to you.